The eclipse devoured the sky, casting the land in an eerie twilight where shadows stretched long and the ocean churned with restless whispers. On the blood-stained shore of the Nri kingdom, a young prince lay dying. Betrayed, stabbed, and left for dead, he was nothing more than an offering, a sacrifice to the merciless sea king, Alakan. But fate had other plans. What happened next would defy the gods, unravel a conspiracy that threatened an entire kingdom, and awaken a power no mortal was meant to wield. Because sometimes, the most dangerous person isn't the warrior with a blade, it's the outcast the world has forgotten. They thought they had killed Prince Ikeen. Instead, they had given birth to something far more dangerous. This is the story of how a betrayed prince rose from the depths, how a forbidden love defied the sea itself, and how a kingdom paid the price for its greed. Just before we dive deeper into this epic tale, we'd love to know where you're watching from. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow, we've got an extra special story lined up for you, and you definitely won't want to miss it. The air was thick with the scent of salt and blood. The waves roared like angry spirits, crashing against the jagged rocks of the shore. Above, the moon slowly swallowed the sun, casting the land into an eerie darkness. The eclipse had begun, a time of omens, a time of death. Prince Ikeen groaned as he lay on the damp sand, his body broken, his breath shallow. His royal robes were soaked with his own blood, his chest burning from the wound that had been meant to end his life. The blade had been sharp, the betrayal even sharper. It had been his father's second wife, Queen Ataku, the foreign queen with cold eyes and a heart of stone. She had smiled as she plunged the dagger into him, her golden bracelets jingling as she whispered in his ear. "The throne belongs to my son now. Sleep well in the arms of the sea, Prince Ikeen." She had left him here, as an offering to the mighty Alakan, the god of the sea. The old story said that during an eclipse, the boundary between the land and the water thinned. It was the perfect time to feed the ocean a sacrifice. But Ikeen was not dead. Not yet. His fingers twitched weakly, grasping at the wet sand. His vision blurred, his strength failing him. The waves lapped at his feet, creeping closer, hungering for him. Then he saw her. A shadow in the water. A figure with long, flowing hair that shimmered like moonlight on the waves. Her eyes, dark as the deepest part of the sea, locked onto his. A mermaid. Ikeen tried to speak, but only blood bubbled from his lips. The mermaid hesitated, her hands trembling as she reached out toward him. "I Funanya, no." A deep voice echoed from the waves. A towering form rose from the ocean, a being with skin like the night sky, his eyes swirling like the stormy sea. Alakan himself. The god's voice was like thunder, shaking the very earth. "This man is ours. Do not interfere." The mermaid, Ifunanya, flinched, but she did not step back. Instead, she placed her hands on Ikeen's wound, pressing down as if she could hold his life in place. "He does not deserve to die like this," she whispered. The sea god's eyes flashed with rage. "You dare to defy me?" Ikeen felt something shift in the air. A powerful force was pulling him, dragging him into the depths. The ocean was claiming him. Ifunanya clenched her jaw, her dark curls whipping around her face as the wind howled. Then, before the god could stop her, she bent down and kissed Ikeen. A shock wave rippled through the water. Ikeen gasped, his body arching as something ancient and powerful took hold of him. His skin burned, his heart pounded. He could feel the ocean inside him now, its whispers filling his ears, its pull clawing at his soul. Alakan's furious roar shook the heavens. "You have broken the law of the sea." Ifunanya held Ikeen close. "Then let the sea take its price," she said. The ocean did. And nothing would ever be the same again. Pain. It seared through Ikeen's body like fire and ice at once. His chest burned where Ifunanya's lips had touched his, and something deep inside him twisted and cracked, reshaping itself. He gasped, his vision flickering between darkness and light, between the familiar world of the land and the strange, shifting realm of the sea. Iphigenia's arms were tight around him, her grip strong despite her slender frame. "Hold on," she whispered. But Ichine couldn't hold on. The ocean's power roared through his veins, crashing against his very soul. His heartbeat was no longer his own, it was the rhythm of the waves, the pulse of the tide. He felt as though he were being torn apart and stitched back together with threads of water and salt. And then, silence. When Ichine opened his eyes, he was no longer on the shore. He was beneath the waves. He panicked, kicking wildly, expecting his lungs to burn, his body to drown. But the pain did not come. He could breathe. Ichine's gaze darted to his hands. They still looked human, but his skin shimmered faintly, as if kissed by the sea's magic. He felt lighter, faster, stronger, yet somehow, wrong. Iphigenia floated beside him, her long hair swaying like seaweed. Worry darkened her eyes. "You are not fully human anymore," she said. Ichine stared at her. "What did you do to me?" His voice sounded strange, almost like an echo beneath the water. "I saved your life," she said. "But the ocean demands balance. To stop you from dying, I had to bind you to me. Now, you belong to the sea as much as you do to the land." Ichine clenched his fists. He should have died. That was what Queen Attica had wanted, what the gods themselves had decreed. And yet, here he was. Changed. Cursed. "What does that mean?" he asked. Iphigenia hesitated. "It means that if you spill innocent blood, the ocean will claim you forever," she said softly. "You will no longer be a man. You will become a creature of the deep, bound to Olakin's will for eternity." Ichine's stomach turned. His whole life had been about strength, about becoming a warrior worthy of his father's kingdom. Now, the very act of war, the act of vengeance, could strip away the last pieces of his humanity. "And if I refuse to fight?" he asked. Iphigenia's expression darkened. "Then you may lose everything." A heavy silence passed between them. Ichine's mind spun. His father's kingdom, his home, was under Queen Attica's control now. She would erase his name, his legacy. His people would suffer under her rule. How could he let that happen? "There has to be a way to break the curse," he said. Iphigenia bit her lip. "Perhaps." Ichine grabbed her hand. "Tell me." She looked away. "The sea is full of secrets, Prince Ichine. But some are better left buried." Before he could press her for more, a deep tremor rumbled through the water. The ocean itself seemed to shudder. Ichine felt it in his bones. Something was coming. Iphigenia's grip tightened on his arm. "We have to go. Now." The water trembled around them. A deep, guttural sound vibrated through the ocean, not a voice but a force, ancient, angry, undeniable. Ichine's heart pounded. He had faced battle before, but this was different. This was something beyond human. "What is that?" he asked, his grip tightening on Iphigenia's hand. Her expression was grim. "Olakin is furious." A shadow moved in the depths below them, vast and endless, shifting like a great storm cloud. Ichine had never seen anything so large. His breath hitched. "We need to move," Iphigenia said. "Follow me." She darted forward, slicing through the water with effortless speed. Ichine kicked his legs, propelling himself forward, but it felt strange. His movements were faster than they should have been, smoother, almost unnatural. He wasn't fully human anymore. The thought sent a chill through him, but he had no time to dwell on it. Behind them, the ocean groaned as something massive stirred. A pair of glowing eyes opened in the darkness. Ichine's blood ran cold. "He sees us," Iphigenia whispered. The sea god rose from the depths, his towering form half shadow, half water, his face unreadable yet terrifying in its vastness. His eyes glowed like molten gold, burning with fury. "You have broken the law of the sea." Alakon's voice crashed through the water like thunder. "You dare defy me, Ifunanya." Ifunanya didn't cower. She lifted her chin, her dark curls flowing around her. "I saved him," she said. "He was innocent." "Innocent?" Alakon's laughter was like crashing waves. "He is a prince of men. A son of the land. They spill blood without thought, and now you have given one of them power over my waters." Ikin clenched his jaw. "I did not ask for this power," he said. Alakon's gaze snapped to him, and suddenly, Ikin couldn't move. A crushing force pressed down on him, squeezing the air from his lungs. "You did not ask," Alakon rumbled, "but you have it. And now, the sea owns you, whether you like it or not." Ikin struggled, but it was like being caught in the grip of a tidal wave. His vision blurred. He could feel something inside him twisting, pulling toward the depths. "Stop!" Ifunanya cried. "He is bound to me. You cannot take him unless I release him." Alakon's eyes narrowed. "Then release him." Ifunanya hesitated. Ikin's chest burned. He could feel the ocean clawing at his soul, threatening to drag him into darkness. But something in Ifunanya's eyes told him that if she let him go now, he would be lost forever. "No," she said finally. "I won't." The sea god's fury exploded. The water churned violently, sending currents spiraling around them. "Then he will learn what it means to defy me," Alakon roared. Lightning split through the water, and suddenly, Ikin's world turned upside down. When Ikin opened his eyes, he was no longer in the ocean. He was on land. He gasped, his lungs heaving as he coughed up seawater. He was sprawled on a beach, the sun beating down on his skin. For a moment, he thought he had imagined everything, the betrayal, the mermaid, the sea god. But then he felt it. The ocean inside him. His heartbeat no longer felt like his own. He could still taste salt on his tongue, still hear the distant whispers of the waves even though they were calm. He pushed himself up, feeling the strength in his limbs, the unnatural lightness in his step. He wasn't just a man anymore. A soft voice reached him. "Ikin." He turned. Ifunanya stood there, her bare feet sinking into the wet sand, her sea-colored dress billowing in the breeze. She looked different. Weaker. "What happened?" he asked. She exhaled slowly. "Alakon has cast you out of the sea, for now. He wants you to struggle, to suffer, to see what it means to carry the curse. You may walk on land, but you are not free of him. The ocean still calls to you." Ikin stared at the waves. He could feel them. A pull, a voice, a presence just beneath the surface, waiting for him. "And you?" he asked. Ifunanya looked away. "I broke the law of the sea to save you. My people will not forgive me easily." Ikin's fists clenched. "Then why did you do it?" Her dark eyes met his. "Because I believe your story is not meant to end yet." Ikin swallowed hard. He had lost everything, his home, his kingdom, his father's trust. But now, he had something else. A second chance. A curse. A choice. Ifunanya stepped closer. "Your stepmother will think you are dead. That is your greatest weapon." Ikin exhaled slowly. He was no longer just a prince. He was something more. And he would use it to take back what was his. No matter the cost. The wind carried the scent of damp earth and burning wood as Ikin crouched at the edge of a small fishing village. It had been 2 days since he washed ashore, and already he could feel the changes within him growing stronger. His senses were sharper, he could hear the whispers of the ocean, even though he stood far from the shore. His movements were fluid, his reflexes faster than ever before. But it was the pull of the sea that disturbed him the most. It called to him. The curse is binding itself to you, Ifunanya had warned him. The longer you remain on land, the more it will try to pull you back. Ikin clenched his jaw. He didn't have time to worry about the curse. He had to get back to the palace, to his father's kingdom, to see what had become of his people. He turned to Ifunanya, who stood beside him in her human form. Her long curls were damp from the sea breeze, her dark eyes scanning the village ahead. "We need to be careful," she murmured. "You are supposed to be dead. If Queen Attica learns you are alive, she will try to finish what she started." Ikin exhaled sharply. He wasn't afraid of his stepmother. But he knew she was dangerous. He had seen the greed in her eyes when she arrived from a foreign land, how she wrapped his father around her fingers with sweet words and soft smiles. And now, she sat on the throne, ruling in his father's name, waiting for the moment when her son would replace him forever. "Then let's move," he said. "The sooner I see the palace, the sooner I will know how deep her betrayal runs." The two of them moved through the village under the cover of darkness. Ifunanya walked with the grace of the ocean, her steps light as air. Ikin, however, felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. His home was no longer his. And he would have to fight to take it back. By the time they reached the outskirts of the capital, Ikin's heart was pounding. The city had changed. The streets were quieter than he remembered, the air heavier with tension. Guards patrolled the gates in greater numbers, their weapons gleaming in the moonlight. Something was wrong. "The people are afraid," Ifunanya observed. "Your father's kingdom is not what it once was." Ikin's hands clenched into fists. He needed to get inside. He needed to see his father. Moving swiftly, he slipped past the guards, blending into the shadows like a hunter. Ifunanya followed, her presence almost ghostly beside him. They weaved through the darkened corridors of the palace, past the towering statues of kings long gone. Then, at last, they reached the throne room. Ikin's breath caught in his throat. His father sat on the throne, his expression hollow, his skin pale. He looked weakened. His once proud figure was slumped, his eyes distant, as if he were only half alive. And standing beside him, wearing the finest gold, draped in jewels, was Queen Attica. Her smile was cold. "My king," she purred, running a delicate hand along the arm of the throne. "You seem troubled. Are the gods whispering to you again?" Ikin felt fury rise in his chest. She had done something to his father. He wanted to storm into the room, to demand answers, to expose her treachery, but he forced himself to stay hidden. "Not yet." Ifunanya's hand brushed his arm. "Wait," she whispered. "Watch." Ikin gritted his teeth. Queen Attica stepped closer to the king, lowering her voice. "Your son is dead," she murmured. "It is time to accept the future. My son will be king now." The king didn't respond. He barely seemed to hear her. Ikin felt something inside him snap. He had seen enough. "I will not let this stand," he whispered. He turned to Ifunanya. "Help me get to my father. He must know the truth." Ifunanya hesitated. "Ikin, be careful. The ocean is watching." Ikin's eyes burned with determination. "Then let it watch." Ikin gripped the hilt of the dagger he had taken from one of the palace guards. His heart pounded in his chest as he and Ifunanya crept through the narrow halls of the palace. The air was thick with the scent of burning oil from the torches lining the walls, casting flickering shadows that danced like spirits. His father had looked like a ghost of himself, drained, lifeless. Queen Attica had done something to him. Ikin had no doubt now. "We have to get to him," he whispered. Ifunanya's gaze was sharp. "It won't be easy. The queen has tightened security." Ikin smirked, gripping the dagger tighter. "Then we'll just have to be smart about it." The two of them slipped past the guards, moving through the hidden servant corridors. The walls held memories. He had run through these halls as a child, laughing, playing, believing that his father's kingdom was strong and untouchable. Now, the palace felt like a cage. A shadow moved in the corridor ahead. Ikeen froze, pulling Ifunanya back into the darkness. A guard stepped into view, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. He was scanning the hallway carefully, his eyes sharp. Ikeen's grip tightened on his weapon. He could take him out. A single swift movement, and the path would be clear. But then, the ocean whispered in his mind. If you spill innocent blood, the sea will claim you forever. He gritted his teeth. He couldn't kill the guard. Not yet. Instead, he pressed against the wall, waiting, holding his breath. Ifunanya's fingers brushed against his wrist in silent reassurance. The guard lingered for a moment longer, then turned and walked away. Ikeen exhaled. You wanted to kill him, Ifunanya said quietly. I wanted to do what was necessary, he muttered. There will come a time when you have to choose, Ikeen. And when that time comes, remember, Alakan never forgets a debt. Ikeen didn't answer. He just moved forward. The throne room was ahead. And so was the truth. The doors to the king's private chambers were guarded. Two warriors stood at attention, their faces blank, their spears crossed. We need a distraction, Ikeen whispered. Ifunanya gave him a small smile. Leave that to me. Before he could stop her, she stepped into the light. Help, she cried, her voice trembling. There's an intruder in the palace. The guards immediately snapped to attention. Where? One of them demanded. Near the kitchens. Ifunanya gasped. I saw a man with a blade. He was moving toward the royal chambers. The guards exchanged glances, then turned and ran in the direction she had pointed. Ikeen stared at her. That was impressive. Ifunanya smirked. You forget, I've spent my life outsmarting sea gods. Ikeen didn't waste another second. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. His father lay on a grand bed, his body covered in thick furs. But he was motionless, his chest rising and falling so faintly it was almost impossible to see. Ikeen rushed to his side. Father. The king's eyelids fluttered slightly, but he did not wake. Ikeen's stomach turned. He looked closer, and that was when he saw it. A small, golden vial sat on the bedside table, its contents glowing faintly in the dim light. Poison. Rage burned in Ikeen's chest. She's drugging him, he whispered. Keeping him weak so he cannot resist. Ifunanya stepped closer, her face grim. Then we must wake him. Quickly. Ikeen picked up the vial, sniffing it cautiously. He recognized the scent, moonshade root, a rare herb used to weaken the mind and body over time. If given in small doses, it wouldn't kill, but it would turn a man into a shell of himself. His father had been a prisoner in his own palace all this time. She will pay for this, Ikeen swore. Ifunanya placed a hand on his shoulder. We must be careful. If we wake him too soon and he is not strong enough, Queen Attica will know we are here. We need to find a way to restore his strength before we reveal ourselves. Ikeen forced himself to breathe. She was right. Rushing in would only put them all in danger. Then we find the antidote, he said. And when the time was right, Queen Attica would face his wrath. Ikeen's fists clenched around the tiny vial of poison. His father was not sick, he was being kept weak, trapped in a living sleep while Queen Attica ruled in his place. We need the antidote, he said, turning to Ifunanya. Do you know of any way to counteract this? Ifunanya frowned, studying the golden liquid. Moonshade root is tricky, she admitted. It's slow, but it seeps into the bones. You cannot simply pour an antidote into his mouth and expect him to wake. Ikeen's frustration grew. Then what do we do? Ifunanya hesitated before saying, "There may be someone who can help." Ikeen turned to her sharply. "Who?" "A healer. A woman named Kem. She lives in the outskirts of the kingdom, deep in the forest. She has knowledge that few others do." Ikeen knew the name. Kem was a legend, a woman said to have been blessed by the spirits of the earth, one who could cure sickness with a single touch. "Then we must go to her," he said. "The sooner, the better." Ifunanya nodded. "But it will not be easy. Queen Atiku's spies are everywhere. If they see us leave the palace, they will know something is wrong." Ikeen's jaw tightened. He had already come too far to fail now. "Then we will move like shadows. Let them think I am still dead." And with that, they slipped away, vanishing into the night. The journey to the forest was long, the night air thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Ikeen and Ifunanya moved swiftly, keeping to the hidden paths that only hunters and thieves used. Every sound made Ikeen's muscles tighten. The queen's reach was long, she would not let him escape so easily. "I do not like this," Ifunanya murmured. "The night feels restless." Ikeen frowned. "What do you mean?" Ifunanya's dark eyes flickered. "The spirits are watching. Something is shifting in the air." Before Ikeen could ask what she meant, a twig snapped behind them. They froze. Ikeen turned slowly, his hand on the dagger at his waist. The forest was dark, the trees thick and unyielding. Then, a figure stepped out from the shadows. A man, tall and lean, with piercing eyes that glowed like embers in the night. He wore the robes of a palace guard, but his stance was different, calm, too calm. "Prince Ikeen," the man said, his voice smooth. "You should not have returned." Ikeen's grip tightened. "Who are you?" The man tilted his head. "My name is Obina. And I am here to bring your head to the queen." Before Ikeen could react, Obina lunged. The forest erupted into chaos. Obina lunged, his blade flashing in the moonlight. He moved with deadly speed, faster than any warrior Ikeen had ever faced. Ikeen barely had time to react before cold steel sliced through the air, aiming straight for his throat. Instinct took over. He ducked, rolling across the damp earth, and came up with his dagger drawn. His breath came fast, his pulse pounding like war drums. "The queen sends cowards to do her dirty work now," Ikeen taunted, circling Obina. The assassin's lips curled into a smirk. "Coward," he echoed. "I do not hide in the shadows like a ghost, pretending to be dead." Then he struck again, fast, brutal. Ikeen barely dodged, twisting out of the way as the blade sliced through his sleeve, leaving a thin line of blood on his arm. The pain barely registered. He lunged, slashing at Obina's ribs, but the assassin twisted away with ease. "You are not the boy I remember," Obina said, his voice calm. "The prince who once walked these halls was softer. Weaker." Ikeen's grip tightened on his dagger. "That prince died on the shore." Obina grinned. "Good. That means this fight will be more interesting." He surged forward, faster than before. But this time, Ikeen was ready. He sidestepped, feinting to the left before driving his knee into Obina's stomach. The assassin let out a sharp grunt, stumbling back. Ikeen didn't hesitate. He struck again, this time slashing his dagger across Obina's forearm, drawing blood. The assassin hissed. "Not bad." But then something changed. Obina's eyes flickered, and suddenly his movements became unnatural, fluid, inhuman. He moved like smoke, vanishing from one spot and appearing in another. Ikeen barely had time to process it before a sharp pain tore through his side. He gasped, staggering back. Blood bloomed beneath his tunic. "What?" Obina tilted his head. "Did you think you were the only one touched by the gods, Prince Ikeen?" Ikeen's mind reeled. This was no ordinary assassin. He had been cursed, blessed, by something else. Ifananya moved beside him, her voice sharp. We need to end this. Quickly. Ikeen exhaled, tasting iron in his mouth. Agreed. The night air was thick with the scent of blood and sweat. Ikeen forced himself to breathe through the pain. His side throbbed, but he couldn't afford to hesitate. Obina circled him, his movements eerily smooth. I wonder, Prince Ikeen, he mused. How much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice to win? Ikeen didn't answer. He didn't need to. He lunged. Obina blocked, but this time, Ikeen was faster. His instincts were sharper, his muscles stronger. The sea had changed him, gifted him with more than just a curse. He feinted right, then spun low, sweeping Obina's legs from beneath him. The assassin crashed to the ground. Before he could rise, Ikeen pinned him down, pressing the dagger to his throat. Obina grinned, unfazed. Go on, then. Finish it. Ikeen's grip tightened. He wanted to. He should. But the ocean whispered in his mind. If you spill innocent blood, the sea will claim you forever. Ikeen's hands trembled. Was Obina innocent? No. But this wasn't war. This wasn't justice. This was vengeance. And if he crossed that line, he would never be able to come back. Ikeen, Ifananya whispered. You know what will happen. Ikeen swallowed hard. Slowly, he withdrew his blade. Run, he said. Tell the queen she failed. Obina looked up at him, surprised. Then he chuckled. Interesting. Then, with a swift movement, he vanished into the darkness. Ikeen exhaled, his chest heaving. Ifananya stepped beside him. You did the right thing. Ikeen wasn't sure. Because deep down, he knew the sea was still waiting. Calling. Watching. And one day, it would demand its price. The forest was silent once more, but the battle had left its mark. Ikeen's side throbbed where Obina's blade had cut him. He pressed a hand against the wound, feeling the warmth of his own blood seeping through his tunic. Ifananya moved beside him, her expression tight with worry. We need to stop the bleeding. We don't have time, Ikeen muttered. If you collapse before we reach the healer, none of this will matter. He wanted to argue, but she was right. He was already lightheaded. With a sigh, he leaned against a tree while Ifananya tore a strip of fabric from her wrap and pressed it against his wound. Her touch was gentle but firm. You should have killed him, she said after a moment. Ikeen tensed. If I had, the sea would have taken me. Perhaps, she murmured. Or perhaps he will return to finish what he started. Ikeen didn't answer. He didn't need to. He already knew Obina would come back. But for now, they had to move. Come on, he said, pushing off the tree. We have a healer to find. And with that, they disappeared deeper into the forest, where the trees whispered secrets only the dead could hear. They walked for hours, the thick canopy above them blocking out the sky. The deeper they went, the stranger the forest became. The trees seemed older, their trunks twisting into unnatural shapes. The air was heavy, humming with unseen energy. Ikeen felt it in his bones. This was Northwest ordinary place. She lives here, he asked, glancing at Ifananya. Nkem does not live where people can find her easily, she said. She is not, like others. Before Ikeen could ask what she meant, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a small, crooked hut made of woven reeds and bones. Strange symbols were carved into the wood, glowing faintly in the dim light. Ikeen hesitated. Everything about this place screamed danger. But they had no choice. Ifananya stepped forward and knocked once. The door creaked open before her knuckles even touched the wood. A woman stood inside, her presence both quiet and powerful. Her skin was dark as midnight, her hair long and unbound. She wore a necklace made of tiny seashells that clinked softly as she moved. Her eyes, strange, shifting, landed on Ikeen. "The exiled prince comes seeking salvation," she said, her voice low and knowing. "But does he know the price?" Ikeen swallowed hard. "I need your help," he said. "My father. I know why you are here." Nkem turned, walking deeper into the hut. "Come inside, if you are not afraid of the truth." Ikeen exchanged a look with Ifananya, then followed. He had come too far to turn back now. But something in Nkem's voice sent a chill down his spine. Because she had not asked what price he would pay. She had asked if he knew it. And that meant it had already been decided. Ikeen stepped inside the hut, and the air instantly felt heavier, charged with something unseen. The walls were lined with dried herbs, strange trinkets, and bottles filled with dark liquids. A small fire burned in the center, casting eerie shadows across the floor. Nkem moved gracefully, her feet barely making a sound as she settled onto a woven mat. She gestured for them to sit. Ikeen hesitated, then lowered himself onto the floor, keeping his injured side stiff. Ifananya sat beside him, her mermaid eyes scanning the room carefully. Nkem studied Ikeen, her gaze piercing. "You carry the ocean inside you, boy. I can feel it humming in your blood." Ikeen's hands curled into fists. "I didn't ask for it. And yet, it is yours now." She reached into a clay bowl and pulled out a handful of dried leaves. Crumbling them between her fingers, she tossed them into the fire. The flames hissed and roared, turning an unnatural shade of blue. Ikeen flinched as shadows danced across the walls, shifting and moving like living things. Nkem's voice grew softer, almost distant. "You seek an antidote to wake your father. But the poison in his blood is no ordinary sickness. It is tied to a curse, woven into his very soul. To remove it is to challenge the gods themselves." Ikeen's jaw tightened. "Then tell me how to challenge them." Nkem sighed, as if she had expected that answer. "There is a way," she admitted. "But it is dangerous." Ikeen leaned forward. "Tell me." Nkem looked at him, and for the first time, there was something like sorrow in her eyes. "To save your father, you must give the sea something in return." Ikeen frowned. "What does the sea want?" Nkem turned to Ifananya. The mermaid stiffened. "No." Ikeen's stomach twisted. "What? What is it?" Nkem's voice was calm, but her words were sharp as a blade. "Ifananya defied Alakan's laws to save you. The sea has been patient, but it does not forget. To break the poison's hold on your father, you must return to the ocean and give it what it is owed." "And what is it owed?" Ikeen asked, already dreading the answer. Nkem met his gaze. "You." Silence filled the hut. Ikeen's breath came fast. That doesn't make sense. If the ocean wanted me, it would have taken me already." "Not yet," Nkem murmured. "Because you have not spilled innocent blood. But the sea is patient, and it knows its claim on you cannot be ignored forever." Ifananya's hands tightened into fists. "No. There must be another way." "There is always another way," Nkem agreed. "But it will not be easy. It will not be kind." Ikeen's mind raced. If he refused, his father would remain trapped in an endless sleep. If he agreed, would he ever be able to return? "What do I have to do?" he asked. Nkem exhaled, then stood, walking over to a large clay pot in the corner. She removed the lid and reached inside, pulling out a smooth, black stone that pulsed faintly with a blue glow. "Take this," she said, handing it to him. "This is an oath stone. It will allow you to bargain with the ocean without fully giving yourself to it." But be warned, if you fail to uphold your end of the bargain, the sea will claim you completely, and there will be no escape. Ikeen turned the stone over in his palm. It was cool to the touch, sending a strange shiver up his spine. What must I do with it? Take it to the river at the edge of the kingdom. There, you must summon the spirit of the water and make your offering. Ikeen swallowed hard. And if I refuse? Nkem's gaze darkened. Then your father will die. And soon, you will, too. Ikeen stepped out of the hut, the oath stone clutched tightly in his hand. The night air was colder now, the weight of his decision pressing down on him like a mountain. Ifunanya was silent beside him, her expression unreadable. This is a trap, she said finally. The sea will not let you go so easily. I know. Then why do it? Ikeen turned to her, his eyes fierce. Because I cannot let my father die. And I will not let the queen win. Ifunanya clenched her jaw, frustration clear in her features. If we go to the river, there is no turning back. Then we move forward. He started walking. Ifunanya followed, but Ikeen could feel the tension between them. Deep down, he knew she was right. The sea was waiting. Watching. And it would not let him go without a fight. The journey to the river was silent, heavy with unspoken fears. The night pressed in around them, thick with the hum of insects and the distant cries of unseen creatures. Ikeen gripped the oath stone tightly. It pulsed in his palm, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Ifunanya walked beside him, her expression unreadable. But he knew she was troubled. Say what you are thinking, he said finally. She didn't look at him. This is foolish. We have no other choice. There is always another choice, Ikeen. Her voice was sharp, edged with something close to desperation. You think I want this, he snapped. You think I want to place my fate in the hands of the sea. Ifunanya stopped walking. Then why do it? Ikeen exhaled sharply, turning to face her. Because I have lost too much already. Ifunanya stared at him, her dark eyes searching his. For a moment, she looked as if she wanted to argue, but then she sighed and shook her head. Then I hope you are ready for what comes next. She turned and continued walking. Ikeen followed, gripping the oath stone so tightly his knuckles ached. The river was waiting. The river was unlike any Ikeen had ever seen before. Its waters shimmered unnaturally, shifting between deep blue and silver under the moonlight. Mist rose from its surface, twisting in the air like ghostly fingers. The trees that lined the bank seemed older here, their gnarled branches reaching out like claws. Ikeen swallowed hard. This is it, Ifunanya murmured. He stepped forward, the oath stone burning cold in his palm. What now? He asked. Now, Ifunanya said quietly, you call it. Ikeen took a deep breath. Then, gripping the stone, he knelt by the water's edge and spoke the words Nkem had whispered to him. O spirit of the river, keeper of the waters, I summon you. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the river moved. The water rippled outward in perfect circles, as if something massive was rising from below. A deep hum filled the air, vibrating through Ikeen's bones. Then, suddenly, the water split open. A figure emerged, rising slowly from the depths. It was neither man nor beast, but something in between. Its body was tall and slender, shifting like liquid, its skin the color of moonlight on water. Its eyes were hollow, endless pools of black. Around its head, a crown of mist swirled, and its voice echoed as if carried by the wind. You have called, child of the land. What do you seek? Ikeen forced himself to keep his voice steady. I seek to break the poison that binds my father's soul. The spirit tilted its head. A heavy request. It reached out, and the oath stone in Ikeen's palm burned hotter. And what will you give in return? Ikeen swallowed hard. I am willing to bargain. The spirit smiled, if it could be called a smile. Very well. The waters churned behind it, and suddenly, images formed within the rippling surface. Ikeen saw his father, lying in his chambers, his skin pale, his breath shallow. He saw the queen standing over him, a cruel smile on her lips. He saw himself, standing at the edge of the sea, the water swirling around his feet. There are two paths before you, Prince, the spirit said. One will save your father. The other will save yourself. But you cannot choose both. Ikeen's heart pounded. What do you mean? The spirit raised a long, mist-like hand. To break the poison's hold, you must drink from the river's heart. But be warned, if you do, the ocean's claim on you will grow stronger. The moment you spill blood, you will belong to it forever. Ikeen's breath caught in his throat. And if I do not drink, then your father will die, and the throne will be lost. Silence stretched between them. Ikeen's fingers tightened around the stone. If he drank, he could save his father, but he would be sealing his fate, binding himself even closer to the sea. If he refused, his father would never wake. The kingdom would fall. Ikeen's chest ached with the weight of the choice. Decide, Prince, the spirit whispered. Time is running out. Ikeen's hands trembled. He turned to Ifananya, hoping for guidance, but her expression was unreadable. Ikeen, she said softly, this is not a choice you can undo. He knew that. He knew that whatever he chose now would shape his future forever. His father's face flashed in his mind. The men who had raised him, taught him how to be strong, how to be wise. A man who had trusted the wrong person and paid the price. And yet, the ocean whispered to him. Calling. Waiting. Ikeen closed his eyes. Then, slowly, he reached down and plunged his hand into the river's heart. Ikeen's fingers pierced the water's surface, but it was no ordinary liquid. The moment his skin touched it, a shock ran through his arm, like ice and fire colliding in his veins. The river resisted him, swirling and shifting, as if it had a will of its own. Ikeen, wait. Ifanyanya's voice rang out, sharp with warning. But it was too late. The river pulled. With a gasp, Ikeen was yanked forward. Water engulfed him, cold and endless, dragging him into its depths. The surface disappeared above him, the moonlight swallowed whole. All around him, the water glowed an eerie blue. Shadows swam in the darkness, whispers brushed against his ears. Then, a heartbeat. Loud. Deep. Ancient. It came from below. Ikeen twisted, searching for the source, and then he saw it. A massive shape in the darkness. A great, slumbering heart, carved of stone but pulsing as if alive. Its veins stretched like roots into the riverbed, glowing faintly with a sickly blue light. The river's heart. And it was waiting for him. Ikeen reached out, the pull of the stone in his palm guiding him forward. As his fingers grazed the surface, pain shot through his entire body. His lungs burned, his vision blurred, his mind split. And then, everything went black. Ikeen awoke to silence. Not the silence of the night, nor the hush of an empty room. But a deeper silence. One that felt unnatural. Heavy. He gasped, inhaling sharply, only to realize he was not breathing. He sat up abruptly, and that was when he noticed. The river was gone. He was standing in a vast, endless space. The ground beneath him shimmered like water but was solid beneath his feet. Above him, a dark sky stretched infinitely, dotted with silver stars that pulsed like living things. And in front of him, a throne. Carved of bone and coral, jagged and cruel. It sat atop a rising platform of swirling water, its edges lined with barnacles and glowing seaweed. Ikeen's blood ran cold. He knew this place. He had heard of it in whispered stories, in the tales of drowning men. The court of the ocean. And sitting upon the throne, watching him with endless black eyes, was Alakan, the Sea King. Ikeen's throat tightened. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. Alakan smiled, a slow, knowing thing. "You have taken from the river's heart," he said, his voice rolling like distant thunder. "And now, the ocean has taken from you." Ikeen's pulse pounded. "What do you mean?" Alakan leaned forward. "Look at yourself, Prince." Ikeen hesitated, then lowered his gaze. And his breath caught. His arms, once strong and human, were different now. Dark, shimmering patterns ran across his skin, like the markings of a sea creature. His fingers had lengthened slightly, his nails now sharp, curved like claws. He touched his face, his jaw tightening as his fingers brushed against his cheek, only to feel the faint ridges of scales. His heart slammed against his ribs. "No." Alakan laughed softly. "Did you think you could take from the sea and remain unchanged? Foolish boy." Ikeen's hands shook. "This wasn't the deal," he said through gritted teeth. "I was supposed to save my father." "And you will," Alakan interrupted smoothly. "But the price has been paid. You are no longer fully of the land, Ikeen. The sea has its claim on you now." Ikeen's mind raced. If he spilled innocent blood, the ocean would take him. But now, even if he didn't, would it take him anyway? A shadow of a smile crossed Alakan's lips, as if he knew Ikeen's thoughts. "Go now, Prince. Save your father. Fight for your throne." His black eyes gleamed. "But know this." The shadows around him deepened. The world pulsed, as if breathing. No matter how far you run, no matter how long you fight. The water rose, swirling around Ikeen's ankles, creeping higher, pulling, claiming. "The sea will come for you." A wave crashed into him. Ikeen fell. And the world vanished. Ikeen woke with a gasp. Cold air filled his lungs, and he lurched upright, coughing violently. He was back at the riverbank. The mist still clung to the water's surface, the trees still loomed around them, but something was different. The air felt charged. Alive. Ikeen. Ifyunanya's voice cut through his haze, and suddenly she was kneeling beside him, gripping his shoulders. Her mermaid eyes were wide with fear. "What happened? One moment you touched the river, and then you were gone." Ikeen tried to steady his breath, tried to push away the sensation of water wrapping around his limbs, of Alakan's endless gaze piercing into his soul. "I saw him," he whispered. Ifyunanya stiffened. "Who?" Ikeen looked at her, his jaw clenched. "Alakan." A shadow crossed her face. "No." "Yes." Ikeen swallowed hard. "And something's wrong. I don't feel the same." He lifted his hands, watching the faint shimmer of scales catch the moonlight. Ifyunanya sucked in a breath. "Ikeen," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What have you done?" Ikeen didn't have an answer. Because in the depths of his mind, beneath the fear, beneath the confusion, something stirred. Something ancient. Something hungry. And it was waiting for him to listen. Ikeen clenched his fists, willing his hands to look normal, willing the shimmer of scales to disappear. But no matter how much he willed it, the change had already begun. His heart pounded against his ribs, each beat echoing like the crashing of waves inside his chest. Ifyunanya's eyes remained locked on him, dark pools filled with unspoken fear. "Ikeen," she murmured, "you're not the same anymore." "I know." His voice was hoarse. He felt different, stronger, faster, but also emptier. Something else had awakened inside him. Something vast and ancient. And it was hungry. The river's whispers still clung to his ears. The pull of the sea was stronger now, a constant thrumming beneath his skin. "We need to move," Ifananya said, standing quickly. She cast one last wary glance at the water before pulling him up. "The river gave you what you needed, but it also took something from you." Ikeen swallowed. He didn't need her to tell him that. The ocean had taken something from him. And in return, it had left behind something else. The journey back to the kingdom was long and treacherous. Ikeen and Ifananya kept to the shadows, avoiding patrols loyal to the queen. The deeper they traveled into the land, the heavier Ikeen's chest felt. The ocean was behind him, but its whispers remained. "You cannot escape." He ignored it. For now, his father needed him. For now, his kingdom needed a prince. When they reached the outskirts of the capital, it was clear something was wrong. The city was too quiet. Shops were closed. The streets were nearly empty. The few people they saw moved quickly, keeping their heads low. "The queen has tightened her grip," Ifananya murmured. Ikeen's jaw tightened. He knew she had been planning something. But seeing it with his own eyes made his blood boil. They needed to move fast. If they waited too long, there would be no kingdom left to save. Ikeen and Ifananya slipped into the palace under the cover of darkness. The halls were eerily silent. But Ikeen knew better. The queen's spies were everywhere. Every step forward felt like walking deeper into a trap. "We should hurry," Ifananya whispered. Ikeen nodded. He was done waiting. It was time to take back what was his. Ikeen crept through the palace corridors, his breath steady, his mind sharp. He had walked these halls as a child, but now, they felt unfamiliar, like a place poisoned by betrayal. Ifananya moved beside him, her presence a quiet reassurance. Her mermaid senses were sharp. She could hear the shift of guards' feet before they even turned a corner. "This way," she whispered, leading him through a narrow passage. Ikeen's heart pounded. He was close. Close to his father. Close to the queen. And close to the truth. As they reached the inner chambers, Ikeen tensed. He could feel it, the heavy, unnatural silence in the air. Then, a flicker of movement. He turned. Too late. A sharp click echoed through the corridor. The walls suddenly shifted, and metal bars shot down from above. A trap. Ikeen and Ifananya spun around, but before they could react, guards poured in from every side. And behind them, the queen stepped forward, a cruel smile on her lips. "Welcome home, my dear prince." Ikeen's jaw clenched as the queen stepped closer, her elegant robe flowing behind her. She looked every bit the powerful ruler she had schemed to become. "I must admit," she said smoothly, "I did not expect you to return. You were supposed to be dead." Her eyes flickered to Ifananya, and a look of disgust crossed her face. "And you, a filthy creature of the sea. How unfortunate that you have sided with him." Ifananya stood tall, her gaze unwavering. "You will not win, queen." The queen's laugh was soft and sharp. "I already have." She turned to Ikeen, her smile cold. "Your father is dying. The people no longer believe in their lost prince. And the throne is already mine." Ikeen's blood boiled. "You stole it. I took what I deserved." Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with ambition. "Your father was weak. I gave him the illusion of love, and he was foolish enough to trust me." Ikeen's fists clenched. He wanted to lunge, to strike her down. But he couldn't. Because deep inside him, something dark whispered, "If you spill her blood, the ocean will take you." The queen tilted her head, watching him. "You want to kill me, don't you?" Ikeen didn't answer. "Go on, then," she taunted. "Strike me down. Prove to the world that you are nothing but a cursed monster." His heart pounded. The hunger inside him stirred. He could feel the sea's pull, the weight of Alakon's warning. No matter how far you run, the sea will come for you. If he killed her, he would lose himself forever. But if he let her live, he would lose everything. Ikeen's fingers twitched at his side, his breath coming in sharp, measured gasps. The hunger inside him roared, "Kill her, end this, take back what is yours." But the ocean's warning wrapped around his mind like chains. If you spill innocent blood, the ocean will claim you forever. The queen was no innocent. But did the sea care for justice? Or only for the price of his soul? Ikeen lifted his gaze, meeting the queen's mocking eyes. He could see the challenge in them. She wanted him to strike. She wanted him to become the monster she had painted him as. No. He would not give her that victory. With a slow breath, he unclenched his fists. "You don't deserve an easy death," he said coldly. For the first time, the queen's smug expression flickered. Then, a crash echoed from down the corridor. The guards stiffened. The queen spun around. Ifunanya reacted first. "Ikeen, now," she shouted, grabbing his arm. The moment shattered, Ikeen and Ifunanya moved. The palace exploded into chaos. Guards rushed forward, but Ikeen was faster. His body felt different, stronger. He dodged, weaving through the onslaught like a shadow. Ifunanya leaped, her movement smooth and fluid, her power surging in a burst of oceanic magic. The air hummed. The walls shook. And then, water erupted from the floor, slamming into the soldiers. Ikeen didn't stop to think. He grabbed Ifunanya's hand, pulling her forward as they sprinted down the hall. "Where are we going?" she gasped. "To my father." If they had any chance of reclaiming the throne, they needed to reach the king before the queen did. Before it was too late. The king's chambers were eerily silent. Ikeen hesitated at the doorway, his chest tight. He had not seen his father in months. He had been left for dead because of this man's weakness. And yet, he stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of herbs. And there, lying on the grand bed, was his father. A shadow of the man he once was. Ikeen's breath caught. The king's skin was pale, his eyes sunken. He barely looked alive. "Father." At the sound of his voice, the king's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, "Ikeen." His voice was weak, but the disbelief in it was clear. Ikeen took a shaky step forward. "It's me." The king's breath hitched. I thought." He trailed off, his gaze clouding. Ikeen swallowed hard. "She betrayed you." Something flickered in the king's eyes. A deep, painful understanding. "I know." And then, a whisper from behind. "We are not alone." Ikeen spun around. And the queen stood in the doorway, smiling. "You should have killed me when you had the chance," the queen murmured. Her voice was soft, too soft. Then, she raised a hand. A sickly green mist coiled around her fingers. Dark magic. Ikeen barely had time to react before she struck. A wave of power slammed into him, knocking him backward. Ifunanya leaped between them, summoning a shield of water just in time. "You will not win this," Ifunanya hissed. The queen laughed. "I already have." The torches flickered. The walls trembled. And then, the battle began. The air crackled with energy. The queen's dark magic surged, a swirling storm of green mist twisting through the air like serpents. The room dimmed as the torches flickered, their flames retreating in fear of her growing power. Ikeen barely had time to regain his footing before another blast came hurtling toward him. "Move!" Ifunanya shouted. Ikeen dove aside, rolling across the stone floor as the magic struck where he had been standing. The ground cracked, leaving a deep scorch mark. "You cannot win, boy," the queen sneered, stepping forward. Her eyes glowed with unnatural light, her robes flowing as if caught in an unseen wind. "You are a shadow of what you once were. A prince without a throne. A man with no people." Ikeen clenched his fists. He could feel the sea inside him, the raw power of the ocean whispering in his veins. It wanted to be unleashed. "Do not let her tempt you," Ifunanya warned, sensing his hesitation. "If you give in, the sea will claim you forever." Ikeen swallowed hard. He could not let himself become the monster the queen wanted him to be. But he had to fight. The battle raged within the chamber, power crashing against power. Water clashed with dark magic, filling the air with mist and smoke. Ikeen dodged another blast and turned toward his father. The king was struggling to sit up, his breath labored. "Father." Ikeen called, moving toward him. The king reached out, his frail hand grasping Ikeen's wrist with surprising strength. "My son, you must listen." Ikeen leaned in closer. The king's voice was a whisper, barely audible over the chaos. "There is something she does not want you to know." Ikeen's breath caught. "What is it?" The king coughed, his body trembling. "Your mother, she..." A shriek tore through the air. Ikeen turned just in time to see the queen summon a massive surge of dark magic, its force powerful enough to shake the walls. "Enough of this," she roared. Then she hurled the magic directly at the king. Ikeen's eyes widened. No. But he was too far away. The dark energy struck. And the king gasped, his body convulsing before slumping forward. Ikeen's world slowed. "Father." No response. His breath hitched. His father was gone. Something inside Ikeen snapped. The room shook. The ocean roared in Ikeen's blood. His vision blurred as raw, uncontained power surged through him. His body felt weightless, unstoppable. Ifunanya gasped. "Ikeen, don't." But it was too late. The transformation had already begun. Scales shimmered along his arms. His fingers curled, claws forming at his fingertips. The deep, guttural call of the ocean filled his mind. Kill her. Avenge him. The queen took a step back, a flicker of fear crossing her face. What are you?" Ikeen lifted his gaze, his eyes glowing like the depths of the sea. He could hear the waves crashing outside, responding to his rage. The ocean had awakened. And it wanted blood. The walls trembled. The torches flickered. A deep rumble echoed through the palace, as if the very earth was groaning in response to Ikeen's fury. The ocean's power surged inside him, roaring louder than the queen's dark magic. His skin shimmered, shifting between human flesh and something more. His fingers curled, claws lengthening. His veins pulsed with the weight of the sea. The queen took another step back, her confidence wavering. This is impossible." Ikeen's voice came out in a low, thunderous growl. "You have taken everything from me." The waves outside responded to his rage. The sound of rushing water grew louder. Ifunanya's voice was urgent. "Ikeen, you must control it." But the hunger inside him had already awakened. He took a step forward. The queen flung a desperate bolt of dark energy toward him. Ikeen raised his hand. The attack never reached him. Instead, water shot up from the floor and swallowed the magic hole. The dark mist fizzled, hissing as the power of the ocean consumed it effortlessly. The queen's eyes widened in true fear. "What are you?" she whispered. Ikeen's glowing blue gaze met hers. "I am the son of the sea." Then he struck. The ocean's wrath exploded from Ikeen's body. Water surged forward like a tidal wave, crashing into the queen and slamming her against the throne room's pillars. She screamed, thrashing as the force of the sea pinned her down. Ikeen advanced, his steps slow, deliberate. He could feel the sea's hunger. It wanted her. Drown her. End her. The queen struggled, her magic flickering. No, this is not how it was supposed to be. Ikeen raised his hand. Water curled around her like a serpent, tightening its grip. One word, one movement, he could end her now. The power was his. Ifyinanya's voice cut through the haze. Ikeen, don't. He hesitated. The hunger in his veins screamed for revenge. The ocean wanted justice. But he had sworn he would not become the monster she wanted him to be. The moment stretched. His choice would decide everything. Ikeen closed his eyes. He could feel the weight of the sea. The power of Alakin's curse. If he killed her, the ocean would take him forever. He would never be human again. Never return to the life he once had. He opened his eyes, staring at the queen. She was weak, her body trembling in terror. She deserved no mercy. But he would not damn himself for her. The water loosened. The queen gasped for breath as the grip around her body faded. Ikeen turned away. You are not worth my soul. He stepped back, the ocean's hunger receding. The queen choked on air, her eyes burning with rage. You should have killed me when you had the chance. Ikeen's gaze was cold. Your rule is over. The kingdom will know the truth. Before the queen could respond, the palace shook. A deep, guttural roar echoed through the halls. Ifyinanya tensed. Something is coming. Ikeen's heart pounded. And then the doors exploded open. And from the shadows, a monstrous figure stepped forward. A creature of the deep, with glowing red eyes and the mark of Alakin upon its chest. Ikeen's breath caught in his throat. The creature was massive, its body shifting between water and shadow. Scales lined its arms, its webbed fingers tipped with claws. Its mouth curled into a sinister grin, jagged teeth gleaming. The sea has come to collect, it rumbled. Ikeen's blood ran cold. This was what Alakin had warned him about. The ocean always took its price. Ifyinanya stepped forward, her voice steady. He has not spilled innocent blood. The creature's grin widened. Not yet. It lifted a clawed hand, pointing directly at Ikeen. But the sea's mark is on you. And your debt remains unpaid. The room seemed to grow smaller, the air thick with the scent of salt and brine. Ikeen clenched his fists. I will not belong to the ocean. The creature let out a low chuckle. We shall see. Then the shadows surged forward. The true battle had begun. The palace trembled as the creature advanced, its body shifting like water yet moving with the weight of stone. Shadows curled around its limbs, flickering with eerie blue light. Ikeen's heart pounded. This was no ordinary foe. This was the ocean's enforcer, a being sent to drag him into the depths if he failed to pay his debt. The queen, still gasping on the floor, scrambled backward, her once smug expression replaced by terror. What is that? She whispered. Ifyinanya didn't answer. She already knew. Ikeen, she said urgently. You cannot fight it alone. Ikeen's fingers curled into fists. He had been ready to battle the queen, but this was something far worse. The ocean does not forget, the creature rumbled. You are bound to us, Ikeen. You were saved when you should have perished. Now, the sea demands its due. It raised a clawed hand. The air shifted. A surge of water exploded from the ground, shooting toward Ikeen with the force of a crashing wave. He barely had time to react. He threw himself to the side as the water slammed into the stone wall behind him, shattering it into jagged pieces. Ifananya lifted her arms, summoning a barrier of her own magic, but the creature was relentless. "You belong to the deep." Another wave of dark water came, and this time, Ikeen could not dodge. The force hit him like a hammer, knocking the breath from his lungs. He slammed into the far wall, his body screaming in pain. The ocean's mark on his skin burned. The call of the sea grew louder in his mind. "Give in. Come home. Belong to us." Ikeen's vision blurred. He was losing. "Ikeen." Ifananya's voice cut through the haze. He gasped, his body trembling. The sea's power inside him was awakening, and with each moment, it was pulling him closer to the depths. The enforcer stepped forward, its glowing red eyes locked onto him. "It is time." Ifananya moved before Ikeen could stop her. She leaped in front of him, her hands glowing with magic. "No." She turned toward the creature, her voice steady. "Take me instead." Ikeen's heart stopped. The creature tilted its head, considering her offer. "A mermaid cannot take a human's debt." Ifananya lifted her chin. "But I am not just any mermaid. I saved him. I defied Alakan's law. If anyone must pay, it is me." Ikeen lunged, grabbing her wrist. "Ifananya, no." She turned to him, her expression soft. "You were meant to be king, Ikeen. This is my burden, not yours." "I will not let you do this," he growled. The enforcer let out a low chuckle. "A noble offer." Its red eyes gleamed. "But the sea does not bargain." Then it struck. A powerful wave of energy erupted from its body, slamming into both of them. Ikeen felt himself falling. The world spun. And then darkness. Ikeen awoke to silence. He was floating. The water was cool, wrapping around him like a second skin. He could breathe, but he was not in the palace anymore. Slowly, he turned. He was underwater. A vast, endless ocean stretched before him, glowing with an eerie blue light. Strange shadows moved in the distance, massive creatures lurking in the deep. And there, standing before him, was Ifananya. She looked different. Her shimmering tail was gone, replaced by flowing robes of seafoam and pearl. A delicate crown rested on her head, made of coral and glowing shells. Her eyes held sorrow. "Where are we?" Ikeen whispered. Ifananya exhaled. "The court of Alakan." Ikeen stiffened. He knew what that meant. The sea had taken them. Before he could speak, a deep, thunderous voice filled the water. "You stand before the great Alakan, king of the sea." Ikeen turned slowly. And there, rising from the depths, was Alakan himself. A massive figure, his skin dark as the ocean at midnight, his hair flowing like seaweed. His eyes, glowing white, held all the fury of the tides. Ifananya bowed her head. Ikeen clenched his fists. "You have defied me," Alakan said, his voice shaking the sea. "And now, you must answer for your crime." The waters trembled as Alakan's immense form loomed over Ikeen and Ifananya. His glowing white eyes held the weight of eternity, his deep voice echoing through the ocean like the roll of distant thunder. "You were spared when you should have perished," Alakan said, his gaze fixed on Ikeen. "A life stolen from the depths. A debt unpaid." Ikeen's fists clenched. He had not asked to be saved. He had not asked for the curse that now haunted him. "And you," Alakan's voice rumbled as his gaze turned to Ifananya, "defied my law, breaking the balance between the land and the sea. For your foolishness, you now stand before me." Ifananya held her ground, but Ikeen could see the tension in her shoulders. "I saved a life," she said. "That is not a crime." Alakan's eyes narrowed. You defied my will. And now, the sea demands its due. The waters around them darkened. Shadows swirled, forming shapes of creatures that lurked in the abyss. Ghostly figures, lost souls of those claimed by the ocean, watched from the edges of the court. Ikeen's heart pounded. Was this truly his fate? To be swallowed by the sea, never to return. Then take me, Ifananya said suddenly, stepping forward. Let Ikeen go. I will bear his punishment. Ikeen's breath caught. No. He turned to her, desperation in his voice. I will not let you do this. Ifananya's eyes softened. I swore to protect you, Ikeen. Even if it means giving up everything. Alakan watched, his expression unreadable. Then, after a long silence, he spoke. The sea does not accept mercy. He raised his massive hand. The water surged. A current wrapped around Ifananya, pulling her away. She gasped as the ocean took her, dragging her downward into the depths. No. Ikeen lunged, but unseen forces held him back. Ifananya looked at him one last time. Live, Ikeen, she whispered. Then. She was gone. Swallowed by the abyss. Ikeen screamed. The ocean roared in response. And then. Darkness consumed him. Ikeen awoke with a gasp. He was no longer in the sea. He was lying on the shore, the cold waves lapping at his feet. The sky above was gray. The storm had passed. But Ifananya. She was gone. His chest ached as he struggled to his feet. He felt lighter, as if a part of him had been ripped away. He reached for the ocean's power, but it was weaker now. The curse had not left him. But Ifananya had taken the weight of his punishment. She had saved him. Again. His hands curled into fists. No. This was not over. He had lost his father. His throne had been stolen. And now, Ifananya had been taken from him. But he would not accept this fate. He would not stop until he got her back. The sea had taken too much from him. It was time to take something back. Ikeen stood at the edge of the water, the waves whispering secrets he could no longer understand. But he knew one thing. Ifananya was still alive. Somewhere in the depths of Alakan's realm, she was waiting. And he would find her. He turned his gaze toward the horizon. The path ahead would not be easy. He would need allies. Power. A way to survive the depths. But no force, not the sea, not the gods, not Alakan himself, would stop him. Prince Ikeen was coming. And he would bring the ocean to its knees. The wind howled across the shore as Ikeen stood motionless, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the ocean met the sky. His heart pounded with a fierce determination. Ifananya had saved him, but he would not let her sacrifice be in vain. I will come for you, he whispered, his voice swallowed by the roar of the waves. But how? The depths of Alakan's realm were not meant for mortals. Even with the ocean's mark still lingering in his veins, he could not survive the abyss alone. He needed help, someone who knew the secrets of the deep, someone who could guide him. The answer came to him like a whisper in the wind. The Oracle. Deep in the heart of the forbidden mangrove swamp, there lived a woman neither fully human nor fully spirit. Some claimed she had once been Alakan's favored priestess before she betrayed him. Others whispered that she had been cursed to dwell between the worlds of land and sea, bound to secrets that no mortal should ever know. If there was anyone who could tell him how to reach Ifananya, it was her. Ikeen turned from the water and clenched his fists. The journey would be dangerous. The oracle did not give her knowledge freely, and the mangrove swamp was filled with creatures far worse than anything he had faced before. But he had no choice. Ifananya had risked everything for him. Now, it was his turn. The journey to the mangrove swamp was long and treacherous. For days, Ikeen traveled across the land, avoiding patrols sent by the Queen's guards and navigating through dense forests where the trees whispered secrets of old. As he drew closer to the swamp, the air grew thick and heavy, filled with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The sky above darkened, though it was not yet night. Strange figures lurked in the shadows, eyes peering from the twisted roots of ancient trees. Ikeen stepped forward cautiously. He had heard stories of people who entered the mangrove swamp and never returned. Spirits of the drowned wandered these lands, searching for souls to claim. But he would not be deterred. He pressed on, his footsteps barely making a sound in the soft mud. He could feel something watching him, something old, something powerful. Then, suddenly, "You seek that which is lost." The voice was neither male nor female, neither near nor far. It came from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Ikeen's body tensed. "I seek the oracle," he said, his voice steady. A low chuckle echoed through the trees. "Then step forward, child of the sea, and face your fate." Before Ikeen could react, the ground beneath him vanished. He was falling. Falling. And then, darkness. Ikeen landed on something soft, thick moss that smelled of salt and earth. He groaned, pushing himself up. He was no longer in the swamp. He was in a cavern. Bioluminescent plants glowed along the walls, casting eerie blue light. The air shimmered with unseen energy, and the sound of water dripping echoed through the space. A figure emerged from the shadows. She was tall and draped in flowing robes that seemed to shift like waves in a storm. Her face was hidden behind a veil, but her piercing silver eyes bore into his soul. "You seek to enter Alakin's realm," the oracle said, her voice filled with ancient power. Ikeen stood, meeting her gaze. "Yes." She tilted her head. "Few who enter return. Why should I help you?" "Because I will not leave Ifananya to suffer for my sins." The oracle studied him for a long moment. Then, she raised a hand. The air shimmered. "The path to the deep is not one of strength, but of sacrifice. Are you willing to give what is required?" Ikeen didn't hesitate. "Yes." The oracle's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Then prepare yourself, Prince Ikeen. The sea does not give without taking in return." The oracle led Ikeen to the edge of an underground pool. The water within it was darker than night itself, swirling with unseen currents. "This is the passage of the drowned," she said. "The only way to reach Alakin's realm is to pass through it. But the sea does not allow mortals to enter freely." "Then how do I get through?" Ikeen asked. The oracle reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a dagger. "A blood oath," she said. "You must offer a piece of yourself to the sea. In return, the waters will carry you to the abyss." Ikeen exhaled slowly. He had already lost so much. But if this was the only way, he would do it. He took the dagger from her hands and pressed the blade to his palm. The steel was cold against his skin. With a deep breath, he dragged the blade across his palm. Blood dripped into the pool, vanishing into its depths. The water trembled. A deep rumble echoed through the cavern, as if something ancient had awakened beneath the surface. The oracle stepped back. "Your path is set. The sea will take you now." The water rose. Ikeen had no time to react before the dark waves swallowed him whole. He was falling again, this time, into the unknown. Ikeen's lungs burned as he was pulled through the abyss. The water was thick, pressing against him from all sides. Shapes moved in the darkness, whispers of spirits long forgotten. Then, a light. He gasped as he broke through the surface of a new world. He was no longer in the cavern. He was standing at the gates of a city beneath the sea. Massive coral towers stretched into the endless blue, glowing with ethereal light. Strange creatures swam through the water, their eyes gleaming with curiosity. And there, At the heart of it all, a massive palace, its walls carved from the bones of ancient sea beasts. Alakin's realm. Ikeen clenched his fists. Somewhere inside that palace, Ifunanya was waiting for him. And he was going to find her. No matter the cost. Ikeen stood at the edge of the city, his breath shallow as he took in the sight before him. The undersea realm was unlike anything he had ever imagined. The coral towers gleamed with an eerie glow, and the streets were filled with creatures of the deep, some humanoid, others monstrous. But there was something wrong. The city was too quiet. Despite the flickering lights and moving figures, there was no laughter, no conversation, only the muffled sound of the currents. Ikeen felt unseen eyes watching him from every shadow. He swallowed hard. Ifunanya is here. I just need to find her before Alakin knows I've come. Staying close to the coral-covered walls, he moved through the narrow streets. He passed through a marketplace where merchants stood motionless behind their stalls, their blank eyes following him without a word. Further ahead, a group of mare guards patrolled the streets, their tridents glinting in the dim light. Ikeen ducked into an alleyway, pressing his back against the cold stone. His heart pounded. If they saw him, there would be no escape. He had to be careful. He had come too far to fail now. Ikeen crept deeper into the city, slipping between alleyways and darkened doorways. He needed to find someone, anyone, who could tell him where Ifunanya was being held. He turned a corner and stopped. A figure stood in the shadows, cloaked in tattered seaweed, their face hidden beneath a hood. "You do not belong here," the figure whispered. Ikeen's muscles tensed. "Who are you?" The figure stepped forward, their voice barely louder than the currents. "One who still remembers. One who knows what you seek." Ikeen's eyes widened. "Ifunanya. Where is she?" The figure hesitated, then turned, motioning for him to follow. "Come. But tread carefully. The sea watches all." The figure led Ikeen through the back streets of the city, moving swiftly through the shadows. Finally, they stopped before a massive structure carved into the seabed. Dark chains wrapped around its entrance, glowing with an ominous light. "She is here," the figure whispered. "But be warned, Alakin's wrath is greater than you know. If you free her, the ocean itself will rise against you." Ikeen's fists clenched. "Then let it come." Without another word, he stepped forward and placed his hands on the cold stone. Somewhere inside, Ifunanya was waiting for him. And he would not leave without her. Ikeen pressed his hands against the cold stone of the prison, feeling a deep, pulsing energy beneath his fingertips. The chains wrapped around the entrance glowed with an eerie blue light, humming with Alakin's power. He exhaled sharply. "Ifunanya. I'm here." The hooded figure behind him remained silent, watching. Ikeen clenched his fists. There had to be a way inside. Ifunanya had saved him once, now it was his turn. Carefully, he traced the glowing chains, searching for a weakness. The energy crackled beneath his touch, warning him of the power binding the prison shut. "It is sealed by the sea's own magic," the hooded figure murmured. "Only a power greater than Alakin's decree can break it." Ikeen's jaw tightened. He had power, his curse still linked him to the ocean. If he could just channel it, maybe. Taking a deep breath, he pressed his palm to the center of the seal. The moment his skin met the stone, pain ripped through him. The sea's magic recoiled, as if recognizing him. The mark of the ocean still burned within him, a reminder of the price he had paid to survive. The chains shuddered. A voice, deep and ancient, whispered through the water. "Prince of the land, you defy the sea again." Ikeen's fingers dug into the stone. "I do," he growled. A surge of energy exploded from the chains, sending him staggering back. But the glow was fading. The magic was weakening. Ifunanya was close. He could feel it. With renewed determination, Ikeen slammed his fist into the stone. The prison trembled. The chains cracked. And then a deafening boom echoed through the water as the seal shattered. Ikeen didn't hesitate. He rushed inside. Darkness swallowed him whole. The inside of the prison was cold and silent. Shadows clung to the walls like living things, twisting and writhing as he passed. And then a figure, curled in the corner of a cage of shimmering water, her body motionless. Ifunanya. Ikeen ran to her, his chest tightening. Her once bright eyes were dim, her golden scales dulled. She looked fragile, weakened. But she was alive. Ikeen. Her voice was barely a whisper. His heart clenched. I'm here. I came for you. Ifunanya's lips trembled. You shouldn't have. Ikeen reached for her. We're leaving. But before he could touch her, a voice, cold as death, filled the chamber. You dare steal from me? The water around them shook. Alakan had come. The shadows twisted, forming into a towering figure. Alakan's glowing eyes pierced the darkness, his massive form filling the prison. You have defied me for the last time, child of the land. The ocean's wrath descended. Ikeen grabbed Ifunanya and braced himself. The battle for freedom had begun. The walls of the prison shook, sending waves of cold water crashing around them. Ikeen held Ifunanya close as Alakan's presence filled the chamber. The Sea King's eyes glowed like twin moons in the darkness, his voice vibrating through the depths. You think you can take what belongs to me? Ikeen forced himself to stand tall, despite the crushing weight of Alakan's power pressing down on him. She does not belong to you, he shouted. She is not a thing to be owned. The sea rumbled in fury. Alakan raised his hand. A powerful current surged forward, slamming into Ikeen like a tidal wave. He was thrown back, crashing against the cold prison wall. Pain flared in his chest. His vision blurred. Ikeen. Ifunanya's voice was laced with panic. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to move. He could not let this be the end. Not when they had come this far. Ikeen staggered to his feet, his head pounding. He could feel the ocean's power raging inside him, the mark of his curse burning against his skin. His blood was tied to the sea. And that meant he could fight back. Ikeen clenched his fists. He reached deep into the power flowing through him, the same power that bound him to the water. The sea had marked him. But he would make it his own. Taking a deep breath, he let go. A pulse of energy rippled from his body, stirring the currents around him. The water answered his call, swirling and twisting in a violent storm. Alakan's eyes narrowed. You dare use my own power against me? Ikeen lifted his hands. The water around him rose, spinning in a vortex of light and shadow. I will do whatever it takes to save her. For a moment, Alakan said nothing. He simply watched Ikeen, his massive form motionless in the dark waters. Then, slowly, he smiled. You have courage, boy. But courage alone will not save you. The currents shifted. The walls of the prison stopped trembling. Ikeen hesitated. What are you saying? Alakan's eyes glowed brighter. I am offering you a choice. Ifunanya tensed. Ikeen, don't listen to him. But Alakan silenced her with a single wave of his hand. You have the mark of the ocean, child of the land. The sea already claims a part of you. If you wish to leave with your life, and hers, then I will make you a deal. Ikeen swallowed hard. What kind of deal? Alakan's expression did not change. A life for a life. The ocean god's voice was quiet, yet it echoed through the water like rolling thunder. You may take the mermaid, and I will let you go free. But in return, his gaze bore into Ikeen's soul. You must swear yourself to the sea. Completely. When I call upon you, you will return. No matter what. Ikeen's breath caught in his throat. This was it. His final choice. If he agreed, he would be bound to the ocean forever. He would never truly be free. The land, his home, would no longer be his alone. But if he refused, Ifananya would never leave this prison. And Alakan would make sure he never left either. The current swirled in anticipation. Ikeen looked at Ifananya. Her golden eyes pleaded with him, silently begging him not to do this. But he had already made his decision. His fate was sealed. Slowly, he turned back to Alakan. I accept. The sea roared in triumph. The moment the words left Ikeen's lips, the ocean shifted. A force, ancient and unyielding, wrapped around him like invisible chains. His chest tightened as if unseen hands were carving something deep into his soul. He gasped. His body burned, his blood boiled. The ocean was claiming him. A glowing symbol, twisting like a tide in motion, etched itself into his arm, pulsing with an eerie blue light. The same mark appeared on his chest, just above his heart. Ikeen clenched his fists, gritting his teeth as pain surged through his veins. He had felt the ocean's call before. But never like this. This time, it owned him. The currents swirled violently around them as Alakan's deep, echoing laughter filled the prison. It is done. Ikeen shuddered, the last traces of burning pain fading into a cold numbness. He could feel it now, the sea inside him. A part of him was no longer human. Alakan lowered his hand, his glowing eyes filled with dark satisfaction. Go, the god commanded. Take your mermaid and leave before I change my mind. Ikeen turned to Ifananya. She stared at him in horror. Ikeen, what have you done? Ikeen ignored the searing pain still lingering in his bones. He reached out, breaking the shimmering barrier that held Ifananya prisoner. She hesitated, searching his eyes. You shouldn't have made that deal, she whispered. I had no choice, he murmured. I couldn't leave you here. Ifananya's fingers trembled as she grasped his hand. But now you belong to him. Ikeen's throat tightened. He knew. He felt it. The ocean was inside him now, whispering in his mind. Calling him home. But he pushed the thought aside. They had to leave, now. Gripping Ifananya's hand tightly, he pulled her toward the prison's entrance. The swirling darkness parted for them, the water shifting as if afraid to touch them. The moment they stepped outside, the silent watchers of the undersea city turned their heads. Their empty eyes followed Ikeen. They knew. They sensed what he had become. And they would never forget. Ikeen and Ifananya swam upwards, moving as fast as their bodies would allow. The weight of the ocean pressed around them, but it no longer fought against him. The water welcomed him now. The sea had marked him as its own. But just as they neared the shimmering line where the ocean met the sky, a voice, cold and absolute, echoed in his mind. Remember your oath, Ikeen. His breath caught. Alakan was still watching. Waiting. But he shoved the thought away. For now, they were free. With a final push, they broke through the surface, gasping as the salty night air filled their lungs. The moon hung high above them, bathing the world in silver light. And for the first time in what felt like eternity, they were home. But Ikeen knew. This was only the beginning. Because no matter where he ran, the sea would always call him back. Ikeen and Ifananya drifted toward the shore, exhausted but alive. The waves lapped gently around them, as if reluctant to release them. The night air was thick with the scent of salt and distant smoke. Smoke. Ikeen's heart pounded. Something was wrong. As they reached the shallows, he staggered onto the damp sand, pulling Ifananya beside him. His legs felt weak, his body still adjusting to the new power coursing through his veins. But the sight before him banished all thoughts of exhaustion. His home, his kingdom, was burning. Fires blazed in the distance, flickering like angry spirits against the darkened sky. The village near the palace walls had been reduced to ruins. The air was thick with the scent of scorched wood and destruction. Ikeen's stomach twisted. No. Ifunanya clutched his arm, her golden eyes filled with sorrow. It wasn't like this when we left, she whispered. Ikeen swallowed hard. His stepmother. The foreign queen. She had done this. She knew he would return. And she had prepared for him. Ikeen, Ifunanya murmured, her gaze darting toward the distant palace. They're waiting for you. His fists clenched. He had been betrayed, cast out, left for dead. But he had returned. And this time, he would not run. This time, he would take back what was his. Ikeen and Ifunanya moved cautiously through the ruined village, sticking to the shadows. Bodies lay in the streets, villagers and warriors alike. Some bore the insignia of the royal guards. Others wore the colors of foreign soldiers. His stepmother had not only seized the throne, she had brought an army with her. Ikeen's chest tightened. He had trusted his father to protect their kingdom. But where was the king now? Had his stepmother? Had she killed him? His fingers curled around the hilt of a fallen guard's sword. Ikeen, Ifunanya said softly, as if sensing the storm in his mind. He exhaled sharply, trying to keep his emotions in check. We need to get inside the palace, he muttered. Find out who still stands with us. Ifunanya nodded. And if no one does? Ikeen's eyes darkened. Then we fight alone. The palace loomed before them, its once grand walls now lined with unfamiliar guards. Torches flickered along the entrance, casting eerie shadows across the courtyard. Ikeen's mind raced. He knew every secret passage in this place. If they could just... A sudden scream echoed from within. His breath caught. He knew that voice. Father. Ikeen didn't hesitate. He ran. Ignoring Ifunanya's startled call, he rushed toward the throne room, weaving through the halls like a ghost. The doors were open. And there. His father. Bound. Beaten. Kneeling before the throne. And standing over him, a dagger in hand. His stepmother. She turned as Ikeen burst into the room, her lips curling into a cruel smile. Ah, the dead prince returns. The guards raised their weapons. Ifunanya appeared beside him, eyes blazing with fury. Let him go, Ikeen growled. The queen chuckled. Oh, my dear boy. I don't think you understand. She plunged the dagger into the king's chest. Ikeen's world stopped. His father gasped, a sharp, broken sound. Blood bloomed across his robes. Then he collapsed. Dead. Something inside Ikeen snapped. The ocean roared in his ears. The sea's power, Alakan's curse, awoke. His vision blurred. And when he took his next breath, the waves answered his rage. A deafening roar filled the throne room, not from Ikeen's lips, but from the sea itself. Water surged from the ground, twisting like living serpents around him. The air grew heavy with moisture, and the palace walls groaned under the sudden pressure. The queen stumbled back, her eyes widening in shock. What? She whispered. Ikeen could barely hear her over the rushing tide in his ears. His heart pounded, his blood boiling with a power that was no longer fully his own. The ocean had awakened inside him. And it was hungry. The queen's guards lunged toward him, but before they could strike, Ikeen raised his hand. A wave erupted from the marble floor, slamming into them with the force of a hurricane. The men were hurled across the room, crashing against the pillars like rag dolls. Ifunanya gasped beside him. Ikeen. but he could barely hear her. His gaze was locked on his father's lifeless body. The betrayal. The pain. And the queen, standing there, smirking, as if she had not just stolen the life of a king. Ikeen's hands trembled. The water twisted around him, whispering, calling for blood. The sea wanted justice. No. It wanted vengeance. His fingers curled into fists. Ikeen, if Yananya's voice was urgent now. Don't do this. But the water had tasted his rage. And it was hungry for more. Ikeen stepped forward, the weight of the ocean pressing against his skin. His stepmother, the woman who had stolen his throne, destroyed his kingdom, murdered his father, stared at him, her smirk faltering. For the first time, she was afraid. And she should be. The water rose, twisting into a massive wave above her head. Its shape wavered, shifting between liquid and something more, something ancient. The sea does not forget, Ikeen's voice echoed, deeper, almost unrecognizable. And neither do I. The queen's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. But there was none. Ikeen could end it. Right now. One command, and the ocean would swallow her whole. But then. A sharp pain lanced through his chest. Ikeen gasped, stumbling forward as if an invisible hook had snagged his soul. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he wasn't standing in the throne room anymore. He was somewhere else. Dark. Endless. Cold water swirled around his feet. The sky above was black, the horizon stretching forever. A voice, deep as the ocean's floor, echoed in his mind. The sea is watching, child. Ikeen's breath hitched. Alakan. A figure emerged from the darkness, massive, shifting, made of water and shadow. The Sea King's glowing eyes pierced through the void. You made an oath, Alakan rumbled. And now you stand at the edge of breaking it. Ikeen's stomach twisted. She deserves to die, he growled. Perhaps, Alakan agreed. But the sea does not punish on your terms. The god's presence grew, wrapping around Ikeen like a riptide. You spill her blood, and the ocean takes you forever. The words hit like a crashing wave. The curse. If he killed her, he would lose everything. His throne. His people. Ifunanya. He would become a creature of the deep. A slave to the ocean. Forever. Ikeen gritted his teeth, his hands trembling. His stepmother deserved to die. But if he killed her, would he be any better? Ikeen's breath came fast and heavy as he snapped back to reality. The water hovered above the queen, frozen in place. If Yananya's voice was the only thing anchoring him. Ikeen, please. He looked at her, really looked at her. Her golden eyes weren't filled with fear. They were filled with hope. Hope that he would not become the monster his stepmother had tried to make him. Hope that he would choose to be better. His hands shook. The sea screamed for vengeance. But Ikeen. He let go. The water collapsed to the floor, rushing harmlessly past his stepmother's feet. She gasped, stumbling back. Ikeen turned to the guards, his voice calm but unyielding. Take her. They hesitated. Now. The men rushed forward, seizing the queen as she shrieked in fury. You are weak, she spat. You should have killed me. Ikeen exhaled, his chest heavy. No. He looked her in the eye. I am stronger than you will ever be. The throne room fell silent. And for the first time, the kingdom was his again. The throne room was eerily silent. The queen, now a prisoner, was dragged away by the guards, her furious screams echoing down the hall. Ikeen stood frozen in place, staring at the seat that had once belonged to his father. The king's seat. His father's blood still stained the marble floor beneath it. Ikeen's fists clenched. The weight of what had just happened crashed over him like a tidal wave. His father was gone. The battle had been won, but at what cost? Ifunanya placed a gentle hand on his arm. Ikeen. He turned to her, his throat tight. "It's over," she whispered. Ikeen shook his head. "No." His voice was hoarse. "This is just the beginning." He knew it in his bones. His stepmother had allies, powerful ones. Foreign rulers who had backed her coup. And worst of all, Alakan was watching. The ocean had not forgotten its claim on him. And one day, it would come to collect. That night, the palace was filled with whispers. The dead king. The fallen queen. The return of the exiled prince. Some called Ikeen a hero. Others, a curse. He sat alone in the royal chambers, staring out at the moonlit ocean. His father's last words haunted him. Lead with wisdom, not vengeance. But had he made the right choice? His stepmother deserved to die. He had been moments away from killing her, but Alakan had stopped him. Not out of mercy, but because the sea wanted him. If he had spilled her blood, he would have become the ocean's prisoner forever. Now, he was trapped between two worlds, a king on land, but a marked soul of the sea. How long before Alakan demanded his price? Ikeen exhaled. He had won the throne, but he had not won his freedom. The next morning, the ocean sent its first message. The royal guards rushed into the throne room, their faces pale with fear. "Your Majesty," one of them gasped. "The sea." Ikeen stood quickly. "What happened?" The guard struggled to find the words. "The waves, they." A sudden boom shook the palace. Ikeen spun toward the window. And his blood ran cold. The ocean was rising. A massive wave, too large, too unnatural, was rushing toward the shore, moving with deadly intent. If it reached the city? No, Ifunanya breathed beside him. Alakan wouldn't. But he would. Ikeen could feel it. This was not a natural storm. This was a warning. Alakan was reminding him. He had chosen mercy. But the sea does not forget. Ikeen's curse was still waiting. And the ocean would come again. Ikeen couldn't wait for Alakan to strike again. He needed answers. He needed to go back to the ocean. Ifunanya grabbed his wrist. "Ikeen, no. It's too dangerous." But he met her gaze, his eyes steady. "I don't have a choice." He had won back his kingdom, but the war was not over. If Alakan wanted to claim him, then Ikeen would face the sea god himself. Because one thing was certain. The ocean had taken enough from him. And he refused to lose anything more. What happens next? Ikeen is no longer just a prince, he is a king. But Alakan's curse still lingers. Will he strike a new bargain with the Sea King? Will he find a way to break free from the ocean's grip? Or will the sea swallow him whole? The ocean roared like a living beast, its waves clawing at the shore. Ikeen stood at the water's edge, his pulse a steady drum in his ears. Behind him, Ifunanya clutched his hand, her webbed fingers trembling against his skin. "You don't have to do this," she pleaded. Ikeen turned to her, his jaw set. "I do." Alakan's warning had been clear. The sea had not forgotten. And if Ikeen waited, more than just the palace would suffer. The entire kingdom was at risk. So he had made his choice. He would return to the ocean on his own terms. And he would face Alakan himself. Ikeen took a deep breath. Then he stepped forward. The cold water wrapped around his ankles like fingers pulling him in. Ifunanya gasped. "Ikeen." But before she could stop him, the waves rushed forward. And swallowed him whole. Darkness. Silence. Then, A voice echoed in the abyss. You return to me, child. Ikeen opened his eyes, his body suspended in the blackness of the deep. And before him, Alakan. The Sea King's massive form shifted like a storm beneath the waves, his glowing eyes piercing through the dark. You stand on land, but you are still mine. Ikeen clenched his fists. I did not spill her blood. His voice was steady. You have no claim over me. The water rumbled, a sound that was neither laughter nor anger, but something deeper. No. Alakan's form shifted, his presence pressing down on Ikeen like the weight of the entire ocean. Then why do you hear the tide calling your name? Ikeen's breath hitched. Because it was true. Even on land, he could hear the sea whispering to him. He could feel the pull of the tide in his veins. The ocean had marked him. And now, it was time to pay the price. What do you want from me? Ikeen demanded. Alakan's form swirled like a storm. You are between, the god murmured. Neither human, nor fully of the sea. A king of the land, yet tied to the ocean's will. Ikeen gritted his teeth. Then release me. The ocean shook with a deep, rumbling chuckle. You do not understand, child. Alakan's eyes glowed brighter. There is no release. Ikeen's stomach twisted. Then what do you want? The god's next words changed everything. War is coming, little king. Ikeen froze. What? Alakan's voice was steady, his presence unshakable. The land and sea have been at peace for too long. But the balance is shifting. The darkness around them began to shift, forming visions. A fleet of warships, their sails bearing a foreign crest. A massive sea beast, its jaws wide enough to crush a mountain. A kingdom drowning beneath the waves. The mortals have angered the ocean, Alakan rumbled. And now, the sea will answer. Ikeen's chest tightened. You want me to fight for you? You are mine, Alakan said simply. And when the tide rises, you will choose. The ocean shifted. And before Ikeen could speak, it pulled him under. Ikeen gasped as he was thrown back onto the shore, the waves crashing behind him. Ifunanya was there in an instant, gripping his arms. Ikeen. What happened? He could barely speak. His lungs felt heavy, as if the ocean was still inside him. War, he whispered. Ifunanya's eyes widened. What? Ikeen staggered to his feet, turning toward the palace. Alakan is preparing for war. The words felt impossible, but deep in his heart, he knew they were true. The ocean was rising. And soon, the entire kingdom would be caught in the storm. What comes next? A war between the land and sea looms. Will Ikeen fight for his people? Or will he become Alakan's greatest weapon? The palace was deathly silent. Ikeen stood in the war chamber, staring down at the map spread before him. Ifunanya was at his side, her expression tight with worry. The royal council sat across from him, their faces drawn with fear. A war with the sea. One of the elders, a man with a graying beard, shook his head. This has never happened before. Then it is time to prepare, Ikeen said firmly. The others exchanged uneasy glances. How do you know this? One of the younger generals asked. Ikeen's fingers curled against the edge of the table. He could still hear Alakan's voice, deep as the abyss, echoing in his mind. The ocean is restless. If we do nothing, it will come for us. The elder shook his head again. The sea has always been our ally. We do not fight it, we live with it. Not anymore, Ifunanya said softly. Her gaze met Ikeen's, and in that moment, they both understood the same truth. This was inevitable. The ocean was coming. And the land was not ready. Deep in the palace dungeons, the fallen queen sat in silence. Her once beautiful robes were torn, her golden jewelry stripped away. But her eyes still burned with defiance. She was no fool. She had ruled for years with cunning. She had tried to kill Ikeen, to steal the throne. And she had failed. But that did not mean she was defeated. She knew something the others did not. A secret that would turn the tide. And when the time was right, she would use it. For now, she simply smiled in the darkness. Because she could already hear the waves. And she knew. This war was just beginning. The attack came at dawn. Ikeen had barely closed his eyes when the screams began. He shot up from his bed, heart pounding. Then he heard it. The crash of water against stone. The roar of something massive. Ikeen ran to the balcony. And what he saw made his blood turn to ice. The ocean had risen. And from its depths came creatures of the deep. Serpents with eyes like glowing coals. Shadowy figures that moved like mist. And at the front, a warrior of the sea, standing atop the waves, his spear dripping with salt and blood. Ikeen's breath caught. The war has begun. What happens next? The ocean has struck first. Can Ikeen defend his kingdom? Or will he be forced to choose between the land and the sea? Ikeen did not hesitate. He grabbed his sword and sprinted down the palace steps, Untold right behind him. Outside, the streets were flooded. The ocean had pushed inland, swallowing the lower parts of the city. Fishermen's boats had been flung onto rooftops. Water surged through the roads, carrying debris and terrified people in its wake. And in the chaos, the sea warriors came. Their bodies shimmered with scales, their eyes glowing like deep-water lanterns. They moved with the tide, striking like waves crashing against the shore. Screams filled the air as palace guards fought desperately, their weapons clashing against the curved blades of the sea warriors. Ikeen's chest tightened. If we don't stop this now, the whole kingdom will drown. He raised his sword, his voice cutting through the panic. To me. The warriors of the land rallied. And the battle truly began. Ikeen fought like a man possessed. His sword flashed as he struck down the first warrior, then the second. But for every one he felled, 3 more rose from the waves. Untold moved like water beside him, her own blade slicing through the air with deadly grace. But it was not enough. A deep roar split the sky. And from the ocean's depths, something huge began to rise. A monstrous figure, its body made of churning water, its eyes as deep as the abyss. Untold had sent one of his ancient beasts. Ikeen's breath caught. How do we stop that? Untold shouted. He didn't know. But one thing was clear. If they did not stop it now, the kingdom would be washed away. Far beneath the palace, the former queen sat in the shadows. The battle raged above. The guards had been called to fight. And the dungeon doors, unguarded. A slow smile spread across her lips. Fools. She moved quickly, slipping through the darkened corridors like a ghost. Her enemies had forgotten her. And that was their greatest mistake. Because she still had allies. And if the land and sea wanted war, she would make sure she came out on top. Ikeen stood before the sea beast, his heart pounding. The creature roared, sending a wave crashing through the streets. Untold grabbed his arm. Ikeen, we can't fight this. But Ikeen knew the truth. He could not run from this. This was his fate. He was between 2 worlds, land and sea. And now, he had to choose. The sea called to him. But the land was his home. Could he find a way to save both? Or was he doomed to lose everything? What happens next? The battle rages on. The exiled queen is free. And Ikeen stands on the edge of his destiny. Will he make a deal with Untold? Or will he fight for his people, even if it means betraying the sea. The sea beast towered over Ikeen, its body a swirling mass of water and shadow. The ground beneath him trembled as its roar echoed across the kingdom. The people screamed. Soldiers stumbled back. And then it struck. A massive tendril of water shot toward Ikeen, aiming to crush him. But just as it was about to hit, Ifunanya leaped in front of him, her hands raised. The water stopped. It trembled, twisting midair, as if conflicted. Ikeen's heart pounded. He could see the strain in Ifunanya's eyes, the way her fingers trembled. She was using every ounce of her power to stop the beast. But it wasn't enough. A low, rumbling voice filled the air. Alakan, child of the land and sea, your time is up. Ikeen's breath hitched. The sea god's voice wrapped around him like a current, pulling him in. You have one last chance, Alakan rumbled. Swear loyalty to the ocean. Become my warrior. And your people will be spared. Ifunanya gasped, her grip faltering. Ikeen, don't listen to him. But Ikeen's mind raced. If he refused, Alakan would wipe out the entire kingdom. But if he agreed, would he even be himself anymore? The ocean whispered to him, cold and endless. The land burned in his veins, hot and full of life. He was between two worlds. And he had to choose. Far from the battle, the exiled queen moved swiftly through the palace corridors. Her freedom had come faster than expected, but she would not waste it. She knew Alakan. She had studied the old gods. And she knew the one thing that could break his hold. Hidden deep within the palace was an artifact, a relic of the first kings. A weapon forged from both land and sea. If she could find it, she could turn the tide of this war. But she was not the only one hunting for it. Shadows moved in the halls. Someone was following her. She quickened her pace. Because if she failed, the ocean would claim everything. Ikeen's fists clenched. If I refuse, you will destroy my kingdom, he said. Alakan's laugh rolled like thunder. Yes. And if I accept, you will belong to the sea. Ikeen's heart pounded. To save his people, he had to sacrifice himself. Ifunanya gripped his arm. There has to be another way. But Ikeen knew. There wasn't. Unless. His eyes darkened. Unless he could outsmart a god. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Alakan. His voice rang out over the battlefield. I will give you what you want. Ifunanya gasped. The soldiers froze. But Alakan only chuckled. A wise choice, little king. Ikeen's hands trembled. Because what he was about to do would change everything. What happens next? Ikeen has agreed to Alakan's deal, but does he have a plan? The exiled queen hunts for the only weapon that can stop the ocean. The final battle is coming. Will Ikeen break free of Alakan's grasp? Or will he become the ocean's most powerful weapon? The battlefield went still. The people of the land held their breath. The warriors of the sea watched in silence. Even the monstrous sea beast, its towering form made of endless swirling water, paused. All eyes were on Ikeen, the exiled prince who had just surrendered to the sea. Alakan's laughter rumbled across the heavens like a storm brewing deep beneath the waves. Wise indeed, little king. Step forward, and the ocean shall welcome you as its own. Ikeen swallowed hard. His heart pounded against his ribs, but his face remained calm. Because this was a trap. Not for him. For Alakan. Ifunanya's fingers dug into his arm. She whispered, "Don't do this." But Ikeen only gave her a small, knowing smile. "Trust me." And then, he stepped into the water. The moment Ikeen's feet touched the water, the ocean came alive. Waves curled around him, wrapping his body in a cold, inescapable grip. It dragged him under. Gasps and cries rang out from the shore, but it was too late. Ikeen was gone. The people watched in horror as the sea swallowed their prince whole. Ifananya screamed. She lunged forward, ready to chase him into the depths. But before she could, the waves threw her back. Alakan's voice echoed from the water. He is mine now. Ikeen's world turned black as the ocean pulled him down, down, down. His lungs burned. His skin froze. And then, he was no longer drowning. He could breathe. He could see. And before him stood Alakan himself. The god of the sea was immense, his body shifting between flesh and water, his eyes as deep as the abyss. Ikeen clenched his fists. I have given myself to you, he said. Now, give me your power. Alakan smirked. Eager, aren't you? He reached out a massive hand, his fingers brushing against Ikeen's forehead. And the pain that followed was unlike anything Ikeen had ever known. His veins turned to ice. His heart pounded like crashing waves. And in that moment, Ikeen realized the truth. He was changing. Becoming something no longer human. And if he did not act now, he never would be again. Deep in the palace, the exiled queen reached her destination. A hidden chamber, locked away for centuries. With trembling hands, she pushed open the doors. Inside, resting upon a pedestal, was the weapon of legend. A dagger forged from both land and sea. It shimmered like starlight, its blade humming with ancient power. She grabbed it and turned, only to find herself face to face with someone she did not expect. Her son. The very boy she had tried to place upon the throne. He stared at her, his young face shadowed with doubt. Mother, what have you done? For the first time in her life, she hesitated. Because for the first time, she did not have an answer. Ikeen's body convulsed as the transformation took hold. Scales rose on his skin. His breath came in deep, unnatural gasps. Power flooded his veins. Alakan watched with pride. You are almost ready, little king. Soon, you will be my greatest warrior. Ikeen's mind swam. His memories, his kingdom, his people, Ifananya, blurred. The ocean was calling. It would be so easy to surrender. So easy to let go. But then, a voice. Soft, but unyielding. Ikeen, fight. Ifananya's voice. Somewhere, above the waves, she was still fighting for him. And suddenly, the haze lifted. Ikeen's fingers twitched. His lips parted. And in a voice stronger than he thought possible, he spoke. I am not yours, Alakan. The god's expression darkened. You dare defy me? Ikeen's eyes blazed. Watch me. What happens next? Ikeen is trapped beneath the waves, locked in a battle of will against Alakan himself. The exiled queen has the only weapon that can end this war, but will she use it? And Ifananya? She will not stop until she brings Ikeen back. But can she reach him in time? The war is far from over. Ikeen's body shook as he struggled against the power surging through him. Alakan's essence wrapped around him like a current, tightening its hold. You cannot fight me, boy, the sea god's voice boomed. You are already mine. The water grew darker, heavier, crushing him under its weight. Ikeen gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus. Ifananya's voice still echoed in his mind. Fight, Ikeen. And so, he fought. With every ounce of strength he had left, he pushed back against Alakan's grip. Pain rippled through his body, but he did not yield. He was not a puppet. He was not a slave to the sea. He was a prince, the rightful heir to the land. And he would not be claimed. I am not yours. Ikeen roared. A shockwave of power burst from his body, sending ripples through the ocean's depths. For the first time, Olakin's smirk faltered. On the shore, Ifunanya stood at the edge of the water, her heart pounding. The waves raged before her, a sign of the battle happening deep below. She had to reach him. She had to bring him back. But Olakin's barrier was too strong. There has to be a way, she whispered. And then she thought of something. Something dangerous. Something forbidden. Ifunanya was a daughter of the sea, but she had never used the oldest magic. The magic that could break barriers. The magic that came with a terrible price. She took a deep breath. And then, she began to sing. A haunting melody, filled with sorrow and power. A song that even gods feared. The moment her voice touched the waves, the ocean trembled. Deep within the palace, the exiled queen stared at the dagger in her hands. The weapon hummed with power. She knew what it could do. It could end Olakin's reign. It could save the kingdom. But to wield it, she would have to let go of her revenge. Her son still stood before her, his eyes pleading. "Mother," he whispered, "this war was never meant to happen." She clenched the dagger. She had started this. But now, could she be the one to end it? Ikin felt the ocean shudder. Something was changing. The pull of the sea weakened. And suddenly, he heard it. Ifunanya's song. It reached him even in the depths, wrapping around him like a warm embrace. It called him home. For the first time, he felt the sea's grip loosen. Olakin's eyes flashed with rage. "No," the god bellowed. "You are mine." But Ikin grinned. "Not anymore." And with that, he broke free. A massive surge of power erupted from within him. And the ocean exploded. The waves split apart, and suddenly, Ikin was rising. He broke through the surface, gasping for air, the storm raging around him. Ifunanya was there, waiting, her hands still glowing with power. Their eyes met. "You came back," she breathed. Ikin smiled. "I never left." But before they could celebrate, the ocean roared. The sky darkened. And from the depths, Olakin's fury rose like a tidal wave. "You will pay for this." And with a mighty crash, the final battle began. What happens next? Ikin has broken free, but Olakin is not done with him yet. Ifunanya has challenged the gods, but can she survive the price? The exiled queen holds the only weapon that can end this war, but will she use it? The fate of the kingdom hangs in the balance. And the sea is angrier than ever before. The sky split with thunder. The waves rose like mountains. And from the depths of the ocean, Olakin emerged, his fury like a storm that could drown the world. His form was no longer that of a man but of a towering tidal beast, his body shifting between water and shadow, his eyes burning like the sun at its most cruel. "You think you can defy me?" Olakin roared, his voice crashing through the air like waves against the cliffs. The sea itself trembled. Ikin stood firm. Ifunanya clutched his hand, her song fading as she braced for the god's wrath. The warriors of the land and sea, both human and mare, stood paralyzed, trapped between their fear of Olakin and their hope in the exiled prince. The battle was far from over. It had only just begun. Ikin's breath came ragged and fast. His body still hummed with Olakin's power, his blood no longer fully human, no longer fully mare. But this power was a curse as much as it was a gift. The ocean whispered to him, calling him back, trying to drag him under. And he knew. If he spilled innocent blood, even once, the sea would claim him forever. Yet, in front of him stood a god, ready to wipe out everything he loved. How could he win a war when he could not even strike a killing blow? His fingers tightened around Ifunanya's. "We must stop him," she said, her voice firm. Ikeen nodded. But not with blood, he whispered. There has to be another way. Back in the palace, the exiled queen stood frozen. The legendary dagger rested in her hands, its blade shimmering like moonlight upon water. She had spent years plotting this war, feeding it with lies and betrayal, all for the sake of power. Now the war had spiraled beyond her control. Her son, the one she had schemed to put on the throne, stared at her. His voice was small, yet it carried more weight than the ocean's waves. "Mother, please. End this." For the first time, the queen hesitated. Would she cling to her ambition, or would she finally set it free? Her fingers trembled over the dagger. The choice was hers. And it would shape the fate of the kingdom. The battle erupted. The sea warriors, fueled by Alakin's rage, charged from the waves. The land warriors, led by loyalists to the true throne, rushed to meet them. Blades clashed. Spears pierced the air. The battlefield became chaos, a storm of steel, magic, and fury. And at the center of it all, Ikeen faced Alakin. The god raised his hands, summoning a tidal wave that could wash the entire kingdom away. Ikeen raced forward. "Stop this," he roared. But Alakin laughed, his voice like crashing waves. "You cannot stop the ocean, boy." And with that, the wave fell. Ifananya threw herself forward. Her voice rose once more, this time louder, stronger, filled with the ancient power of her people. The sea listened. For the first time, the waves hesitated. Even Alakin staggered, caught in the pull of her song. But the effort drained her. Ifanyanya's body weakened, her vision darkening as she poured everything she had into the melody. "Stay with me," Ikeen called, catching her as she swayed. Ifananya gave him a weak smile. "You have to finish this, Ikeen." She collapsed. And at that moment, something inside Ikeen snapped. He turned to Alakin. His eyes burned with something stronger than magic. Stronger than fury. A power that even gods feared. And as he faced Alakin once more, the tide of war shifted. What happens next? The battle has begun, but the war is not yet won. Ikeen must face Alakin with a power even he does not understand. Ifananya has given everything, but will it be enough? The exiled queen holds the key to victory, but will she use it in time? The fate of the kingdom, the sea, and the gods themselves hangs in the balance. The end is near, but who will survive? Ikeen felt it. Something deep inside him, something ancient, began to awaken. The ocean had marked him, but it had not claimed him yet. Not fully. And now, as he stood between his people and the god's fury, he understood. This power did not belong to Alakin. It did not belong to the sea. It belonged to him. His blood was no longer just royal. It was something more. And as the great wave hung above him, ready to crash, Ikeen raised his hands. A shockwave of energy burst from his body. The ocean itself split apart. For the first time, Alakin staggered back. The battlefield froze. Mare and human alike watched as their war changed shape. This was no longer a fight between kingdoms. It was a fight between a prince and a god. And the prince was winning. Alakin's eyes burned with rage. "Impossible," the god bellowed. "You are nothing but a boy." Ikeen stepped forward, power crackling around him like a storm. "No," he said. "I am the rightful king." With a final burst of strength, he struck. And the sky shattered. The wave collapsed, but not upon the land. It folded inward, pulling Alakin downward, dragging the god back into the depths. Alakin's scream of fury echoed through the air. And then, he was gone. For a moment, there was only stillness. The ocean, once a raging beast, lay calm. The warriors, who had fought with such fury, now stood frozen. The sea had lost its god. The war had stopped. And yet, Ikeen felt no victory. Because as he turned, Ifananya was lying still. No. The word barely escaped Ikeen's lips as he dropped to his knees beside her. Ifanyanya's breathing was shallow, her body cold as the tide. She had given everything. She had saved him. But the ocean always demanded a price. "Stay with me," he whispered, brushing her hair back. "You promised." Her lips parted, but no sound came. Tears burned in Ikeen's eyes. "Please." But the sea was already pulling her away. No. Not again. Not after everything. He had defied a god. Now, he would defy fate itself. With trembling hands, Ikeen lifted Ifananya into his arms. And for the first time in centuries, he prayed. The sea stirred. A low hum vibrated through the air. And then, the waters parted. A figure emerged. Not Alakan. Not a god. But something older. The spirit of the sea itself. "You have won the battle, Prince," the voice whispered, soft as the tide, heavy as the ocean's weight. But the ocean never gives without taking. Ikeen held Ifananya closer. "Take me instead," he said. "Let her live." The spirit tilted its head, considering. Then, it smiled. A king who would sacrifice himself for love. The ocean rippled. "Perhaps, that is a story worth telling." The waves rushed forward. And everything went dark. What happens next? Ikeen has won the war, but at what cost? Ifanyanya's life hangs in the balance, and the sea has made its final demand. Will Ikeen lose himself to the ocean forever? Or will he find a way to rewrite his fate? The final choice has yet to be made. Darkness engulfed Ikeen. The sea was everywhere, pulling, whispering, waiting. "You offer yourself in her place," the spirit murmured, its voice stretching through the abyss. Ikeen's heart pounded. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "You love her that much?" Ikeen closed his eyes, feeling the weight of everything they had endured, the betrayal, the war, the gods, the impossible choices. "More than my own life." The ocean stirred, considering. Then, the weight lifted. The whispers faded. A single ripple spread through the water, carrying a final decree. "Then you shall both live." Light rushed in. The sea let go. And when Ikeen opened his eyes, he was lying on the shore, Ifananya breathing beside him. She was alive. The people had watched it all, the fall of Alakan, the power of the prince, the miracle of the ocean's mercy. Now, as Ikeen stood, weak but unbroken, they fell to their knees. "Long live the true king." The chant rose like thunder, rolling across the land, carried by the wind and the waves. The warriors laid down their weapons. The sea folk bowed their heads. And the queen, the woman who had started it all, stood alone in the wreckage of her own making. She had lost. But Ikeen did not look at her with hatred. "Take her away," he said simply. There was no need for vengeance. She had already been defeated. And so, with the war over and the throne reclaimed, Ikeen turned to his people. "No more blood," he declared. "No more war. From this day forward, the sea and the land shall live as one." And this time, everyone believed it. The kingdom was alive with celebration. For the first time in generations, both human and merfolk gathered in peace. And at the heart of it all, Ikeen and Ifananya stood side by side. "Are you ready to be queen?" Ikeen whispered. Ifananya laughed, her eyes full of warmth. "Only if you are ready to be my king." The people cheered as they were crowned together, a ruler of both land and sea. The war was over. the kingdom had healed. And as Akin and Ifananya stood on the shore, hand in hand, watching the waves kiss the sand, they knew this was only the beginning of their legend. Years passed. The kingdom flourished. The sea remained at peace. And the story of the exiled prince and the mermaid who saved him became a tale sung by both land and sea. They ruled with wisdom and kindness, never forgetting the price they had paid for their love. And when their children ran to the shore, watching the waves, they would always hear the ocean's whisper. A reminder. A promise. That love, when true, can defy even the gods.